My name is Ted Burns, and I'm Senior Director of Political Affairs and RADPAC for the American College of Radiology Association, and I want to welcome you to our RADVOCACY podcast hosted by RADPAC. Our goal with the podcast is to give you a behind-the-scenes look into the various advocacy efforts of the college, our members, and insights from political influencers here in Washington, D.C. Hello, this is Ted Burns, and I'm excited to have with us today on our next podcast my radiologist friend, Dr. Madison Wulfeck. Many of you probably know her from her very well-known popular podcast, Contrast and Clarity, with the JACR. Dr. Wulfeck, how are you doing?
Great. It's great to be here with you, Ted.
Thanks for joining. We've talked about doing this for months now, and it's nice to actually make it happen. Although I'm a little bit nervous in doing this because it's one thing when you do a podcast, but then when you're interviewing someone as a guest who also has a podcast, I'm like, I hope she doesn't judge me. I'm doing this all wrong or anything. So please have a little grace today as we go through the podcast that we do.
Absolutely.
We are glad that you're joining us. Before we get going with kind of the meat and potatoes of the podcast, we typically will start out with our guests and just ask them to describe some of their training background, where they went to school and kind of what they're doing now with their clinical responsibilities.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Columbia, South Carolina, home of heat, humidity, and gamecock heartbreak every weekend. My dad is an ophthalmologist and my mom is a CPA. And I have one younger sister named Carson with a K. I went to undergrad at Wake Forest University, where I was on the track and field team as a pole vaulter. And then I came back to South Carolina, where I did my medical school at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. After a surgery intern year in Columbia, I boomeranged back to MUSC for my radiology residency. And then I rounded everything off with a cardiothoracic imaging fellowship at Duke University. And then straight out of fellowship, I jumped into private practice as a remote cardiothoracic radiologist, but the practice also had a residency. So I had a lot of opportunities to learn how to read out residents remotely and to be an effective noon conference teacher while still in my pajama pants. I am now with the Radiology Associates of South Florida out of Miami, but still read 100% remotely from Charleston. Because at this point, my husband and I are officially entrenched Charlestonians.
Now, I feel like the 100% remote thing is becoming more and more common. I mean, I just, even at the ACR meeting and even, throughout the last few months, I just have had more and more conversations with folks who are in that model. Do you find that that's the case, that that's becoming more common and more popular?
I do. I feel like especially the younger generations are wanting a little bit more flexibility to their lives. They want to have family if they choose to have one. And to have that kind of time and attention, you almost have to have the remote possibility too. I personally love the remote life. It's something I knew I wanted to do. Even since residency, I was working towards being a remote radiologist. And with the COVID pandemic really propelling that possibility, it just made it was just a no-brainer for me. It's what I love.
The other thing about it too, and you mentioned the family dynamic, is a lot of times, when you're doing the family thing and just kind of getting going with the family thing, you want to be around other family, right? You need support, you need help, you're working crazy hours. And if you have a spouse who's maybe also in healthcare or has a really busy professional career, it's nice to have grandparents around and others that can, kind of be helpful. And if that gives you more flexibility doing it remote, where you can be kind of back home versus in a very specific area that may not be close to family, then that seems to be like a no-brainer.
Oh, absolutely. And as someone who can barely take care of myself, I don't know how people do it with children in general. So kudos to you who have kids and all the radiologists and physicians out there who have kids. I do not know how you do it. I hope to one day be able to do it, but I still can't hardly feed myself. So.
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised. It's the survival of the fittest. You have no choice. But you see a lot of people who I even think of like a Dr. Amy Patel, like as busy as she is, with
Yes.
her professional responsibilities, and obviously with being chair of RADPAC and chair of RAN, and doing so much in other things, other organizations, American Cancer Society, and other stuff. And then she's got a little daughter. Like, man, I don't know how to balance it, but you find a way. So let's kind of figure out a little bit more about you, not just your background, but kind of your involvement with the ACR and a lot of these things that you're doing. Kind of, one of the things that, again, made it appealing to have you on as a guest is because you also do a podcast, but also you're so involved in so many different things. You're involved, again, with the ACR, you're involved with the Florida Radiological Society. You kind of got your hands in a bunch of different things. And I think that's really cool to see because a lot of folks are interested when they're going through residency to get involved. It makes tons of sense because they can kind of expand their network. And then as they kind of get into the YPS season of their career, the young physician section season, when they're done their training, they're trying to establish themselves professionally in their practice or wherever they are. And then again, to your point, maybe they're thinking about starting a family and all these other obligations come up. Life basically happens. And it's still hard to maintain engagement in other things outside of just only the work and only the family. So when I see folks in this kind of YPS window of time, such as yourself, doing as much as you're doing, it really is very inspiring, but also kind of catches my eye. And so I want to highlight it. So that's kind of one of the many reasons we have you today. So do you want to kind of talk a little bit about your ACR involvement? I know you did a Bruce Hillman Fellowship, Dr. Bruce Hillman. And then also, I think you do some stuff with appropriateness criteria. Do you want to just kind of talk about some of the different areas where you've got your hands in volunteering?
Absolutely. So I was involved in the ECR back in residency, and I continued on through fellowship. And since fellowship, I've just jumped headfirst into the Florida Radiological Society, met incredible crew of YPS radiologists from all over the state as a part of FRS. And, we're all basically treading water in imaging volumes while white knuckling our way through early careers where we're just figuring out as we go. But somehow we still find the energy to try to grow the YPS as much as we can. And this year I am serving as YPS president and also representing Florida as a counselor at the ACR annual meeting. So I have dabbled in my fair share of ACR committees over the past few years. My first gig was on the committee on practice parameters for breast imaging, which isn't even my area of interest. But I really wanted to be a lead research author for an appropriateness criteria document, and that just happened to be the open lane at the time. And from there, I had doors open to me for more committees like the Appropriateness Criteria Expert Panel for Thoracic Imaging and the Lung Cancer Screening Registry Quality and Education Committee. And these committees are full of people doing some of the most thankless, spreadsheet heavy, and eye crossing work in radiology. And yet it's absolutely essential to keep our field moving forward. And you mentioned my involvement with the JACR and the Hillman Fellowship. I started out with the Journal of the American College of Radiology by first applying to be a part of the JACR trainee editorial board, which I was on throughout my fourth year of residency. And through that experience, I supported the JACR with outreach and social media promotion and had mentored peer review experiences. I enjoyed it so much that I knew I wanted to apply for the Hillman Fellowship in Scholarly Publishing, which I just completed last year.
So, here's what I find in just you going through that long list of engagement is, kind of careful what you ask for, because you kind of say, yeah, I kind of want to get involved in X, Y, and Z because it interests me. And it's very rare you see someone, especially kind of in again, the window of the YPS, that you get involved and you don't get sucked into like 2 or 3 or 4 other things. You're like, oh, she's really good. She's really sharp. She seems to really like this. And then all of a sudden you get 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 more things thrown on your lap, and you kind of don't want to say no. And you kind of feel like you have this like obligation because maybe it's a mentor asking you to do this, or maybe it's a different kind of colleague that you're trying to build a relationship with, or just something you're super interested in. And you finally get that opportunity to like really actually kind of dive into it. And I always feel a little bad for a lot of our volunteer leaders and those who are engaged, because like it's usually, if they're involved, they're really super involved. It's like it's very rare to find someone who just does one thing only, and so from your perspective, I mean, how are you balancing that between all the different things you do? You have multiple things going on at the same time. Plus, as you have alluded to, and everyone knows, I mean, the volumes are not at a point where it's like, oh, this is an easy day job. Like you guys are grinding through your volumes too. So like, how do you find that balance? Like, how do you kind of figure out a way to prioritize it and really make sure that you're kind of keeping your sanity with it all too?
Boy, that's a great question. And I don't have a great answer for you right now, other than I try to do my best at everything I do. Right now, I'm in a season of my career where I do like to say yes to everything because I only have a husband and he's pretty low maintenance for the most part. And I do not have children. So I'm able to say yes to everything, to all these opportunities, to try to make the best out of everything I do. But to keep my sanity, I do try to have protected time because time is my most valuable asset, as is
Yep.
for every radiologist out there. Time is just the most expensive commodity that we have. And so if we have protected time for social events, to go to certain things, to have one thing to look forward to every week, and to just to pencil in your spouse for food every once in a while, then that's the best we can do right now.
Now, I think that's a great way to look at it. And then protected time is great. The other thing is, I assume throughout this process, you've either had mentors who have kind of roped you in or brought you in, or as a result of being roped in, just for whatever reason, you've developed these relationships with mentors. I know your father-in-law is a radiologist, and I'm sure he's been a really good mentor as well. But I assume that's a pretty big part of this as well.
Oh, absolutely. I like to try to take one quality from each of my mentors and try to make it into a conglomeration of what I hope to be one day. And yes, my father-in-law is a radiologist. He is a practice president and he works very hard. So I've learned a lot from him and through his experiences as well. But even everybody at ACR, part of the JACR, everybody has been vital to what I have taken and put into practice.
And you think it's pretty cool too, because you're learning so much from these mentors as you described, but then one day it'll be kind of cool when you're the mentor, right? When people are, I mean, you may not think it's going to happen, but it'll happen probably sooner than you realize, or maybe already happening and you don't even know. But that's kind of a cool thing too, because as you know, folks like your father-in-law, sooner or later they're going to retire, and we're going to need people to kind of take up a lot of taking the baton from them, and then you're going to have to pass it down to people as maybe you get into a different season in your career where you want to have maybe a little bit more protected time, where you can do things, that you've deserved to earn that right, kind of more for yourself. I kind of alluded to the podcast that you do. It's contrasting clarity with the JACR. Do you want to talk maybe a little bit about that? Maybe you understand the struggles of doing a podcast, finding guests and doing the script and doing the editing and all the marketing for it. I mean, it's almost like a small little business, kind of, really. I don't think any of us are like super viral. I don't even know if any of us would really want to get super viral because it would make it even that much more work. But do you want to just kind of talk about it and maybe what you like about it, what you've kind of learned from it? Any input from that?
Absolutely. Oh man, the podcast. What a labor of love this has been. It is in mostly self-inflicted chaos, but truly a labor of love at this point. But it was a part of the Hillman Fellowship in Scholarly Publishing that I just completed this past year. And as a part of the fellowship, I had to do a year-long project. And when I met with the JACR team to brainstorm what I should do, someone floated out, hey, why don't you kind of get the podcast avenue started for the journal? And because the journal was going fully digital at that time, it sounded like a perfect idea because it just kind of matched with the timeline so well. And now, did I have any podcasting experience? No, absolutely not. Did that stop me or give me any deterrence as to doing this? No, of course not. I smiled, nodded, and thought, how hard can it be to do that in my spare time? So I started from scratch. I learned how to launch on multiple platforms, record interviews without sounding like I was in a tin can, plan formats, write questions, edit and splice audio, and actually publish all the episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and everywhere. And I also roped in one of my good friends, Jeff Waltz, who is a radiologist at the Charleston VA down the street from me, to co-host it with me so I wouldn't just sound like I was an idiot talking to myself over a microphone. And together we try to make it sound somewhat interesting to listen to, at least. But our goal is pretty simple through the podcast. We try to dive deeper into JACR articles and current radiology issues, but with enough energy and relevance that people don't feel like they're stuck in a CME lecture. We cover what we find interesting. We sprinkle in some other topics so that it's not just our own pet obsessions that we talk about. And we do our best to keep it engaging too. And so far we've cranked out about 26 episodes. I just published the 26th episode on Sunday, which is pretty exciting. And we somehow still have ideas left in the tank. We've had an all-star lineup of guests, including Doctors Rich Duzak, Lauren Nicola, who I know you just had on your own podcast recently.
She's great. She did very well for us.
She's awesome. Charlotte Taylor, Christoph Wald, Lars Grimm, Ruth Carlos, just to name a few.
Okay, stop for a second here. Now, I feel like our podcast is okay. I feel like we do a decent job. You're embarrassing me. I mean, your guest list is way... This is a very impressive guest list you got here. I don't know how you pull all these strings. I thought I had strings to pull, but that's an impressive group of folks.
They have all just been so gracious and sharing their time with us and just contributing to the podcast. It's just been such an honor to have them on and just be able to talk about their work and their interests. But out of all the episodes we've had so far, one of my favorite has been a 3-part series that we called Revamping the Radiology Residency. And my Hillman co-fellow, Dr. Fatima Elahi, Jeff, and I, we all sat down and we asked, what if we could start from scratch and design a residency however we wanted? And so we all came up with our own ideas, kind of built off of each other. And we also had some cameos from some other radiologists to contribute to it. But it was fun and different. And I think we generated a good bit of interest on the topic too.
That's super cool. And it's a creative way to just, think outside the box. Now, I would be curious to see maybe one day some of these ideas that you guys threw out there stick. It would be kind of fun. I talked to Dr. Madeline Lewis there in Charleston, see if you can get her. She's big with the residency program at that department, and see maybe if you can get her to buy in. But I think it's really cool in the sense of, when we do this podcast, it's the RADVOCACY podcast, and typically it's focused on, federal legislative stuff, political stuff, state legislative stuff, some regulatory econ. But what you're doing with the podcast in and of itself really is advocacy. It's just a different type of advocacy, but it's so important where you're kind of helping a lot of your listeners to understand how to advocate for themselves or kind of how they go about doing certain things in their career that maybe, without the resource of that podcast, they wouldn't have in their back pocket. I think that's a really cool resource that you provide through the podcast. And I think, going through and having it, again, being a little bit more conversational. So you said it's not like just a typical CME type of exercise, but actually like something that they feel like is a little bit more relatable. I think that's a really cool approach. And so it's really nice to see you having such great impact with this. And so kudos to you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely not the go-to person for PAC strategy or dissecting legislative issues or economics. So thank you for lowering the bar and inviting me on anyways. But what I do think I bring is an early career radiologist perspective. Yeah. And I've someone I have finished training right after COVID. It turned everything upside down. Just in 5 years, I've seen the ground shift under our feet. And right now, it is just tough to stay engaged in general. Early career radiologists are, as we already talked about, treading water in a tidal wave of imaging volumes. And adding ACR involvement just takes extra time, extra money, and the kind of extra attention that most of us usually reserve for figuring out which password we forgot this past week. So why I stay involved is because radiologists can't just keep muddling along. Something has to give at some point. Right now, we're wedged between a rock and a hard place while getting squeezed from every direction. We don't control what gets ordered. We have non-physician practitioners firing off unindicated studies like confetti, and we have zero say in how many radiologists get cranked out of the pipeline, and reimbursements keep circling the drain. So eventually the system is going to snap. Something has to give. Yep. And when it does, we'd better have radiologists waiting in the wings, ready to step in and not just watching from the cheap seats. And that's my whole goal here. That's what you do. That's what we all do on a daily basis. Staying involved, RADVOCACY is all very, very important to what we do.
Yeah, and maybe I think if we could just, we keep referencing your father, and I don't want to mention his name and get him in trouble. I don't think he would care. But, at the same time, I know he's always kind of had a little bit of interest in running for office or being in elected office or some sort of policy, decision maker type of role. And if we just get him in Congress or something, that could probably help us quite a bit. We've never had a radiologist in Congress over all these years. We've had a few really good candidates who've gotten close and just never been able to really get kind of across the finish line. So maybe one day I'm still going to try to talk to him about it. He'll send me a text every now and then. Sometimes I'll send him a text now and then. We try to see if we can find a good fit. So you never know what'll happen.
I'll see if I can work on that too. The world better buckle up if he makes it into Congress.
Tell you what, he'll turn things upside down. There's no doubt about that, which is fine. That's probably a good thing. Well, look, I want to be really respectful of your time. And so we're going to kind of get towards the end of the podcast here, but I really appreciate you joining us and talking about your podcast. I hope the people who listen to our podcast will go to your podcast and listen. They probably already do listen to yours, but if not, I hope they will start to listen to yours. I really appreciate all you're doing at the state chapter level. It'd be also very easy for you doing remote to just not even really kind of associate with the chapter or anything geographically. Kind of, for you to do that is awesome. And then obviously all the stuff that you're doing within the ACR as well. So thank you for all those things. So this is our lightning round that we conclude our podcast with.
Yes, lightning round.
Yeah. These are supposed to be relatively quick answers. You and I have gotten to know each other a little bit over the years, but I don't think I know you well enough to know what any of these answers could be. So that's interesting and fun for me. Favorite food is the first one.
Okay. I'd also like your updated answers too, if that's okay. We'll try to keep it as quick as we can, but I haven't heard your updated answers in a few podcast episodes now.
Okay. Wait, you want me to also answer as well?
Yes.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. Favorite food? That's easy. Bagels. I'm a bagel snob. There are actually tiers of bagels, just so you know. The best bagel is one that's the boiled kind, perfectly toasted, and it has a medium to large amount of whipped cream cheese on it. But the worst bagel is one that's kind of doughy. They barely toast it, and then they hand it to you with a little prepackaged thing of cream cheese. And that's not a bagel. That's just a cry for help.
So what is your favorite flavor? Bagel?
Well, unfortunately, it's either poppy or plain usually, but you can do the best judging with a plain across different places. So it's kind of like how you have to judge pizza places by eating cheese pizza sometimes, just to kind of get a baseline. So
gotcha.
Those are my go-to. What about you?
Very fair. For me, I grew up in the Philadelphia area, so obviously cheesesteak, pizza steak, pasta. Those are the staples. You've got it. The only other thing I would add to that, which is also very Philadelphia unique, and my wife won't ever let me have it in the house, is scrapple. And if you don't know what scrapple
is,
I'm not even. It's just Google it. It's the worst combination of food of all time, but it tastes great. Trust me. You just got to put a lot of ketchup and syrup on it, and it's
Oh
fantastic.
God! What ketchup and syrup? What is happening right now?
It's like a breakfast meat. It's like a mystery breakfast meat, but it's
Okay.
fantastic. Yeah. My favorite place to travel.
Oh man, it would be it would be to the couch right now. I actually hate traveling. I no way find that relaxing. I usually have to take a vacation after I take a vacation. If teleportation were an option, though, I've always wanted to do the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, which is something I've never been able to do. But if I make it to the couch right now, it's a win.
Okay, that's fair.
What
So
about you?
I will say the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. If you ever go to Louisville and you stay downtown, you will see like so. If you go to Nashville, you just see all these bachelorette parties everywhere in Nashville. That's like the place to go. But if you're in a hotel in Louisville, any time of the year, you just see usually like 5, 6, 7, 8 drunk guys coming in these hotels like late afternoon, early evening from doing that. And it just looks like such a hot mess. I can't even imagine going on that. But I mean, to each their own. Favorite place to travel for me is not too far from Charleston. I love Charleston, but I would say Hilton Head. That's kind of just where my wife and I got married. It's our family's favorite place to vacation.
We went there all the time we used to play tennis and we used to go to Sea Pines all the time. It's one of my favorite places.
Sea Pines. Yep.
Did you really? Oh, that's
yep.
And also the South Carolina Radiological Society is having their annual meeting there next year. So
they are.
Maybe you'll just
They've done that for years, and they're doing like the joint. I think they're doing the joint thing with Georgia.
They are with Georgia. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that I've been down there for many years. Hung out with Dr. Dallas Lovelace down there, and that's always been pretty fun. All right, favorite hobby or activity that's not including anything radiology, anything ACR, anything podcast, like something that's more personal than radiology space.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, that depends. First of all, if it's college baseball season, I am a Gamecock baseball fanatic. Okay. I'm a huge college baseball nerd. I bring my scorebook so I can score all the games, and I sometimes bring a radio with me. I know, super nerdy status. Wow. But if it's not baseball season, I do like to paint. If you give me a canvas and some acrylic paints, I will paint you a beautiful abstract work of art for your living room that may or may not match your decor, but it'll be colorful.
That's an interesting combination of hobbies, but they're both so unique and so cool. And actually, now I'm starting to get ideas. Maybe have you as one of our parts of entertainment for a future gala or something where you can do. We've done painting a couple years ago. I don't know if you were at the gala. Yeah. We had a woman did the cherry blossoms in the Capitol, and she painted a picture during the entire gala, and she was done at the completion of the gala, and we gave it away as a raffle.
Yeah, but like hers was actually pretty and looked like something. Mine don't.
No, I'm sure yours would be very nice. All right, so favorite hobby night. I would say for me, I'm a huge Philly sports fan, and I'm also I don't know if this counts as well, but like. My son's used to be a huge baseball player, had a huge growth spurt, then transitioned to being a huge basketball player. So I got 2 more years of watching him play in high school and hopefully in college after that. And so that's like, if there's something I can do, like that's my number one go-to.
Awesome.
So that's kind of my thing. All right. The last one we have here, favorite saying, favorite quote. This is totally up to you. This can be something that's a common thing. Could be like a well-known thing, or this could be like your own random thing that you made up. Whatever you find yourself saying regularly, or something that you say that maybe makes your husband roll his eyes because you say it all the time, or whatever the case may be. Like, what's kind of like a favorite saying or quote that you are known to use?
Well, my husband rolls his eyes at me all the time, but it's usually unrelated to my quotes. But I have 2 go-to sayings that I use a lot, and none of them would win a philosophy award. But the first one is busier than a one-armed paper hanger. It's something that my mom and I say all the time. It's just when life
Okay.
feels so chaotic and it's like a circus act kind of feel to it. And then the second one is if you wait till the last minute, you only have a minute. And sure,
Oh.
that's a terrible productivity strategy, but it's also peak efficiency if you think about it. So if you wait till the last minute, it'll be a rush job. But alternatively, you've only wasted a minute on it. So
Right. That's interesting. I mean, it's true. It's factual. No, that's interesting. That's
I know
good.
one of you said in the past that I really like was Nike, just do it. And I just love
Yeah.
that one. That's a really
Yeah.
easy and quick one to go to.
The only problem with that one, and this just happened, this just happened to me last week. I was talking with a chief of staff for a member of Congress. I was actually texting with them, and we were going back and forth, and they asked me something, and we had been kind of negotiating a little bit, and basically I needed to say yes, like just go for it, is basically what I was trying to say. So I texted him and I said Nike. I mean, like, just do it. Like, we're good. We agree. Whatever. And then he texted back and said, "Did you mean nice?" I was like, "No, Nike. Like, how old are you? Like, are you not like you're so young? You don't even know that was like the Nike campaign? Like, just do it." He's like, "Oh, okay. I think I've heard of that." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh, this is terrible. I'm getting
he
so old."
mistook your brilliance for autocorrect.
Yeah, he totally thought I was just saying nice. I was like, the other one that we do a lot in our house is interested versus invested. I do that a lot actually as well when I go speak at chapters and to other radiology groups. I just think it's a really good one. It applies to so many things in life, like, yeah, I mean, whether it's my kids and the stuff that they're up to, or me myself, people on the Hill, whatever it is. Like, I mean, we have a ton of people on the Hill who are very interested in helping with healthcare issues, but are they invested? Are they really doing it? I mean, that the difference in the amount of members of Congress who are interested in helping versus the ones who are actually invested in doing it, that is such a huge gap, right? But I think it's really accurate, and I think it's a really big difference between the two. And I think if more people were willing to be bold and be invested instead of just being interested is safe, which is fine. And you can't be invested in everything, but it would be nice if we had a little bit more invested here up in DC. So that's kind of my big,
That's a good one.
yeah. Well, look, I've really enjoyed this. This has been fun. Definitely want to encourage again those listening to this podcast to go to your podcast if they're not already, and they can find it on all their favorite podcast platforms that are out there. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you for all you do for the college, and continue to do what you're doing. And we look forward to working with you for many years to come. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ted.